Peace, family. This is Lions Den with news and commentary, continuing coverage of today is the 2-year anniversary of Philando Castile's death. Now, CNN interviewing Philando Castile's mother and his uncle, and they're going to explain to you what happened to Philando and the occurrence of what transpired or what happened to their son and nephew. And of course, like I said, I'm showing everybody and remember the victims and the good side of them. I'm not going to bring the negative side of them. No past criminal records or none of that, because that's not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the victims that lost their lives through the hands of the police. Because I already did Elton Sterling's story, but now I'm going to do Philando Castile's story now, because today is officially the 2-year anniversary of his death. So I'm going to go ahead and play the CNN video of Philando Castile's mother and his uncle of what happened moments of when Philando was killed. So so here it is.
Joining us now this morning is the mother of Philando Castile, Valerie Castile, as well as his uncle, Clarence Castile. We are so sorry for your loss this morning. We know that this is your first interview and that this is a very hard morning for you. Thank you so much for being with us. Mrs. Castile, have you seen that video that we just played of this incident?
No, I haven't looked at the video because I know it's not a good thing to look at. I want to remember him the way I last saw him leaving my home earlier that evening.
And how was that?
I don't understand.
How was he feeling when he left?
What did happen right before this?
Well, earlier, I'll say about 2 o'clock, he came to my house in order to go and get his hair done. And he came back and we chit-chatted, him and his sister, and they had a conversation about the concealed carry permits that they both have. And they were saying that, to be cautious. And my daughter said, you know what? I really don't even want to carry my gun because I'm afraid that they'll shoot me first and then ask questions later.
Oh my gosh, that seems like some sort of omen or something to hear that. Now, Mr. Castile, have you seen the video?
Yes, I have.
How do you explain what you see on that video?
I seen a young man, helpless, shot for no apparent reason. I saw my nephew shot by a man, clinging to his life, with no help. It was the most horrific thing I ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
We hear about things like this happening all the time around the United States and the world, people being harmed and abused by people that we're supposed to trust with our lives, people that are supposed to serve and protect us. And they tend to be our executioners and judges and murderers.
I basically think that these things are happening because there is no checks and balances in the justice system, and that a lot of our African-American men, women, and children are being executed by the police, and there are no consequences. So, in essence, I feel like it's becoming more and more repetitive. Every day you hear of another black person being shot down, gunned down by the people that are supposed to protect us. My son was a law-abiding citizen, and he did nothing wrong. He had a permit to carry, but with all of that, trying to do the right things and live accordingly by the law, he was killed by the law.
And it's devastating to us all.
I'm outraged.
We hear that, and that's understandable. And we understand why it feels as though we've seen far too many videos like this. Just the day before your son was shot, we saw one out of Baton Rouge. We've seen so many videos like this, certainly in my line of work, but this one, I have to tell you, is different. And in part, it's because his girlfriend was live streaming it. And so you saw her reaction, you saw her 4-year-old daughter's reaction in the backseat, and you saw your son's reaction. Have you spoken?
All of that. All of that.
Have you spoken to his girlfriend?
No.
We can't locate her. No one knows where she is. The last time I saw her is when my daughter and I came up on the scene, and she was in the back seat of the
Falcon
House Police Department's police car, and they wouldn't even let us get close enough to her to even talk with her.
And you came up
again
then. But you came up on the scene, Mrs. Castile, because you had seen this unfolding. How did you know what was happening?
No, we were getting phone calls, and my daughter was screaming in the house, and I was like, "What's going on? What's wrong with you?"
The live streaming.
And the live stream was going on. I personally didn't see it, but I knew something was going on, and they were saying they were at Larpenteur and Rice, but then they were saying you could see a Falcon Heights sign.
Yeah.
So I knew immediately that it had to be Larpenteur and Snelling. And we rolled up on the incident, and we couldn't get to her to talk to her. We were stopped by the police, and I asked them where was my son at. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to know where my son was, because I didn't want my son to die alone.
And what was the answer to where your son was?
First it was, I don't know. And then the sergeant that was there at the site, he came back and told me that he was at Hennepin County Medical. And I said, well, why did you take him there? Why didn't you just take him down to Regents Hospital? Because I thought that was a little bit closer than Minneapolis. But by the time we got to Hennepin County, he was already deceased. And they didn't let me see my son's body.
At all?
At all.
I
have not identified my son's body because they didn't let me.
Do you think that help came in a timely enough fashion for your son?
I have no idea, because everything was unfolding while I was driving to the incident.
Mr. Castile,
I can.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say that the help didn't come quick enough, and in a situation like this, it never does. Yeah. I mean, the police are all hyped up, and the adrenaline is flowing, and you know they're in a certain place in their minds. I mean, the last thing they want to do is touch somebody, offer some help, you know. But from what I heard, they did later. You know, a few minutes later, they did try to revive him. But I wasn't there on the scene. I don't know how quickly it came, but from what I seen on the live stream, the officer was standing there with his gun still pointed at my nephew. I mean, the man was still standing there with the gun pointed at my nephew, screaming at him. And he was laying in the car, you know, swelling up, his arms swollen and hanging off his body, and blood everywhere. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to understand, you know, what was going through their minds and things like that, but
I just want to say that I appreciate Diamond streaming that video live, because
no doubt,
we never would know exactly what happened had she not put that out there like that.
Exactly.
And then for him to blatantly shoot into that vehicle with that child in there,
exactly,
and that female. And I know for a fact my son would never jeopardize his fiance and the child by doing anything to provoke this officer to think that his life was in danger.
He's not an officer. He's just a man. An officer is supposed to protect and serve. He's not an officer. That was a man who did that. That man is a destroyer.
Yeah.
And he came into our lives and done something, and took something from us.
They took a very good person, and everybody that knows my son knows that he is a laid-back, quiet individual that works hard every day, pay taxes, and come home and play video games.
Yeah.
That's it. He's not a gangbanger. He's not a thug. He's very respectable, and I know he didn't antagonize that officer in any way to make him feel like his life was in danger.
Or threatened. Threatened in any way.
Mr. Castile, the St. Anthony Police Department that was involved says that in their 30-year history, they've never had a police shooting. I know that you just talked about the police officer being hyped up. You do hear on that video of Diamond's video of the police officer yelling. How do you explain the state of mind that the police officer was in, or what happened here that might have led to the police officer being so hyped up?
Trigger happy?
No, I wouldn't say trigger happy. I would just say that the mere fact that my nephew had a firearm in his vehicle, he had a CCW permit, therefore he had the right given to him, the permission and the privilege of the state of Minnesota to carry a firearm on his person.
I think he was just black in the wrong place.
That could be true, but he had permission and the privilege to carry a firearm within this state. And from what I understand, Philando told them that he did have a firearm.
I'm sure he did, because that was something that we always discussed. Comply. That's the key thing. The key thing in order to try to survive being stopped by the police is to comply. Whatever they ask you to do, do it. Don't say nothing. Just do whatever they want you to do. So what's the difference in complying and you get killed anyway?
And we know there's we know if you take a concealing carry class, you know there's protocol. When you get pulled over, you let them know that you do have a permit and you have a weapon in your car.
And that's what he did. And
you tell the police, please let your partner know I have a weapon in the car. Okay, now I'm supposed to get my driver's license. I reach for my license or whatever, and then you unload. They unloaded on him. That man shot him.
Yeah.
One
of the striking things about this video that Diamond shot is her composure. So at first, while your son and nephew is bleeding next to her, she is reporting in a quite measured fashion what just happened. She's giving her location of where she is, what transpired, and she's also communicating with the police officer in, again, a very composed, poised, calm fashion. How do you explain how she was able to do that? She's the coolest
girl I ever seen in my life. I don't know how she did it, but she managed to get the information out.
Both of them guys are pretty laid back, and they're calm people. They're not aggressive, neither one of them. And that's why she was able to hold her composure, because that's in her nature, as well as him being calm and compliant, and that's in his nature. So that's why they got along really well. You know, you have two individuals with the same personality. Yes, they will get along, and that's why she was able to hold her composure, because she's laid back and she's calm like that.
You know, that
and
video...
I want to applaud her again.
That is nice. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You want to applaud how she handled herself.
Correct.
Absolutely. Because like I said in the beginning, we may never known the truth, the actual truth, because I don't know if that officer man was wearing a body cam himself that would help explain some of the things that took place.
Dashboard cam, you know, I mean, there's ways of getting information, you know. I mean, they're going to do an investigation. I mean, and hopefully the proper things and the right information and the true information will come out.
I don't know that this police department has a dashboard
It's a whole
cam.
lot of things that cannot be disputed.
Well, tell me about that, Mrs. Castile, because the video starts after the shooting. But what do you think could have been happening in the moments before the shooting?
It's hard. It's
hard to say, because you don't know what that officer's frame of mind was.
Exactly.
But I know my son, and I know that he took the classes and everything. And the main thing I'm trying to tell you is, we know black people have been getting killed, women, children, men. And I always told them, whatever you do, when you get stopped by the police, comply, 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 comply. And if that man asked him to show his license, and I know he verbally told him that he had that gun. There's no two ways around that, and can't nobody in this world tell me nothing different.
And in fact, that's what Diamond says on the video. She says, you asked him to give you his license, which is what he was doing, he told you that he had a concealed carry permit. And
Absolutely.
she's testifying to all of that in real time. I want to ask you about your son. We've learned a few things about him. We know that he worked at the St. Paul School District as a supervisor in the kitchen. What else can you tell us about him?
Yes, in the cafeteria. He's been working since he was 15 years old. He's been paying taxes since he was 18 years old. He's been consistently employed all those years, and I just don't understand it. And I'm outraged about the whole situation because he is a really good person. He's laid back. Everybody likes him. He's no thug. He don't run the street. He don't go to bars. He just does none of that.
Mr. Castile?
Well, I didn't see my nephew a lot, but when I did, we always talked. My questions for him most of the time was, how's your job going? How are you doing? You know, the last time I seen my nephew was on Mother's Day when I invited my sisters and nieces to my house for dinner on Mother's Day. Philando, Diamond, and the baby came over, and I asked him again, how's his job? I mean, we ended up talking about retirement, you know, what kind of money he's putting away for his retirement and things like that. You know, because I'm a firm believer in getting set up, you know, for those twilight years and having some money. And he's got a really good start with, you know, the school district, you know, with the para pension and deferred comp and things of that nature like that.
I always encouraged him. I encouraged him to get one job, stay on that one job, and retire from him, especially if they have good benefits, and that's what they do.
But that was my last conversation with Philando on Mother's Day.
Mrs. Castile, it sounds like you gave him all the right advice and encouragement. After we see shootings like this, you often see people take to the streets. You see protests. We've seen some of that already happening in Baton Rouge. What do you want to see happen?
I would like to see justice.
That's all we want is justice.
That's all we want is justice.
Justice
because
for Philando.
Like I said, he didn't deserve to be shot down like that.
No, not like that.
I couldn't believe it. I could never phantom in my life. I did everything right as a parent. I made sure my kids understood the difference in being law-abiding and that the police were there to help. I never once in my life would have thought that my son would actually be killed by the persons that are supposed to protect and serve him. And he is legitimate all the way across the board. You want to carry a gun? Go and get your license. And that's what him and his sister did. Everything he did was legitimate. He worked an honest job 5 days a week.
Serving children in a school. This man was so docile and laid back. It's incredible how anybody could mistake that. But
sometimes you have those that, you know, you sit up and say that there is no more, what do you call it?
No more justice?
No. When they profiling.
Yeah.
You're still saying there's no profiling, but it is. It is. We're being hunted every day. It's a silent war against African American people as a whole.
And
so it's sad to say. I mean, we think we're in a land of plenty, you know, freedom and things like that.
We're never free.
And so what does justice look like for you in that case?
Well, right about now, it's not looking too good because I'm not getting the answers that I'm asking for. And like I said, they did not even let me see my son to identify him.
Yeah.
I have to wait until tomorrow, after an autopsy.
Yeah, and she may be, they might even not let her come to see him right away. Today.
They don't know anything. They don't know who the BCA investigators are. They don't know who
the doctor, the medical
examiner's going to be. They don't know what the name of the police officers that were involved in the shooting. They're telling me that they don't know anything, so I don't know anything.
Well, what we do know is Philando's dead. That's what we know.
What we know. I would never see my son again.
We hear your frustration.
I'm hyped up. Absolutely. I'm outraged. And anybody that saw that video, they should be outraged too.
And millions have seen it already. So it can't be hidden. Diamond posted that on Facebook, live streamed it. An hour later, it was taken down.
Luckily, other people shared it and saved it.
WCCO got a hold of the video and sent it to New York. And
Yes.
it went from there.
It has gone viral, and
It came to
millions
you
of
guys.
people, absolutely millions of people have seen it. Millions of people are seeing it this morning. But you both are so reasonable. You're not asking for much other than your questions to be answered and for justice. But is it just if let's say that this police officer were fired from the force, is that justice? Is that it?
No. Jail time. Jail time.
No.
Jail time. No. Jail time.
I'm sure there's protocol and everything. And if a layman like myself, if I shoot somebody, I'm going to be prosecuted.
That's it.
Yeah.
He needs to be prosecuted.
Because
of that video. See, because she shot that video, they can't cut it. They can't edit it. It's not grainy. You can see and hear her talking about everything that happened in that situation. And all I'm saying is these police officers need to be held accountable for their wrongdoing.
That's
if you
right.
made a mistake, you made a mistake, and you need to suffer the consequences. Because it happened to me, it can happen to you. We need checks and balances.
We always say every time something like this happens, we say it's got to stop. When is it going to stop? What do we got to do to make it stop? You know, what do we got to do? Will it get worse before it gets better? I mean, we need some help. We need some help down here.
We need checks and balances. If I can be held accountable for what I do, these officers should too. And I believe because everyone's getting acquitted, it's like open season. Okay, I can shoot him, and I'll get acquitted. I'll get my money every day, like I'm working.
What do they do? Yeah, put him on paid leave.
Yeah.
You can't work, but you can still get money.
I mean, and so when you talk about the injustice that you feel in your community and that you've long felt, even before this, and that you feel for the black community, do you want to hear the presidential candidates talk about this? Do you want this on a national stage to be addressed?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It needs to be addressed. Because, like I said, if there's no checks and balances, then we gotta have chaos. It'll be chaos. If you don't hold people accountable for what they do, then they feel like they can just do anything. So then we're out of control. The nation will be out of control.
What do you want your leaders to do?
I want my leaders to step up and hold these people accountable. That's it. Accountability. Everybody needs to be held accountable.
Yeah. Valerie Castile.
It's no, okay, because he's a police officer, he get a pass, you know what I'm saying? But then if I do it, I'm going to jail.
We hear you.
No, that's not right.
No one can disagree with that. We hear you, Valerie Castile and Clarence Castile. We're so sorry that you're enduring this morning. We appreciate you coming on and sharing your strong feelings about this. And we hope you get information today. We will check back in with you tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing.
Yes.
Oh, Lord, my God, is there no help for the widow's son? We got to hang on by the strong grip of the lion's paw.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Castile and Mrs. Castile. We will check back in with you, and we pray that you get some answers today.
So there you have it. That was the mother and the uncle of Philando Castile spoken of what happened to their son and nephew. You see, this is the anniversary, and for those of you who just joined us, this is the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary of the deaths of Philando Castile. I'm already posted videos for those of you who may forgotten of what happened 2 years ago. I already did the Elton Sterling, and now I'm doing the Philando Castiles. and they both were killed 1 day apart. You know, Elton Sterling was killed on July the 5th, and of course Philando Castile killed, 2 years ago today, which was July the 6th. So I'm gonna continue playing this, but there's only one video I'm gonna post it about this, and this is basically the girlfriend, the fiance of Philando Castile, Diamond. So on the next video, I'm gonna put her interview up, and then once that happens, I want you guys to remember the two victims that lost their lives 1 day apart, which was Elton Sterling and Philando Castile. So I'm going to do another video and continue coverage of the 2-year anniversary of the death of Philando Castile. And with that being said, this is Lions Den signing off. Deuces.